All right, welcome to Real Life Counseling, a podcast by The Counseling Corner. I'm Ryan, and I'm here each week with Dr. Ernie, founder of The Counseling Corner and licensed mental health professional. Together, we explore practical, real-world questions about mental health, relationships, parenting, and healing. Whether you're curious about therapy, working through something tough, or trying to support someone you love, this space is for you. Dr. Ernie, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Ryan. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too. Happy Monday. Did you have a good weekend?
Yes, sir.
Anything fun happen over the weekend specifically?
Well, lots of good things. School's back in session, right? So that's always fun. Maybe not for the kids, right? They're not always super excited about school, but they're excited to see their friends, right? But things are going good.
Good. Yeah, school's not all bad. Sometimes
Yeah.
I wish we could go back, right?
Right.
All right. Well, today we are talking about marriage counseling. So I know that you do a lot of marriage counseling. I am excited to hear your perspective on some of these things and learn more about what marriage counseling actually looks like. So if you're okay, I think we'll just jump right in.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Oh, I wanted to tell you, last time we talked about my son with gymnastics,
Oh
right? He
yeah,
did make the national team.
you mean
So
the
that
national team?
was, yep. So the first day, I think I told you he was sitting about fourth. Then he did have a fall on floor,
Oh
right? And so that's always, in those tight competitions, that's pretty hard. So he dropped way down to like eighth, right? And then he had to work back up. But ever
wow,
since he's been young, he's been pretty mentally strong. And we've always taught him, like, why do you fall down? And he'll tell you to learn how to get back up.
nice.
So he fell down and they got back up and he nailed it and ended up making the national team.
How far did he have to climb from eighth?
So he climbed back up to six, and then he with his scores on a few routines like high bar and pommel, like he got tied for second. I think it awarded third on one, and he got second on another one.
Wow.
And yeah, so did really well.
You must be so proud from like I'm so glad you did well, son, but from a mental health perspective too. Like I'm so proud of how resilient you are.
Oh yeah, he's got great resiliency. My other son too. He's a wrestler, and he's getting ready to start preseason wrestling and such.
What an advantage they have. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Okay, cool. Well, congrats to him. I'm excited about that. I'm excited to hear how national training goes.
thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so first question. What is a session of marriage counseling actually like for a couple?
Well, great question. And couples come in for such a variety of reasons, right? Some are in crisis, right? Infidelity or fighting or divorce threats or things like that.
Mhm.
While some come in, they're just numb or emotionally distant. They've grown apart, right? Some are just looking for tools for communication or co-parenting. Some are adjusting to maybe a big transition, like you guys, a new child, right?
Mm,
Things of that sort, right? Or maybe a blended family or, a move or something like that. And then there's some that just want to come in to strengthen they're doing great, but they just want to really be, cutting edge. They just want to do the best, right? So they come in and get stronger. And they just recognize that there's wisdom in a multitude of counsel, and good counseling, right? Is just like a high powered tool, right? You're doing something important, building something important. You want to use the best tools that you have available to you. But to answer your question, given the fact that they come in with quite a variety, there's a few things that do tend to be common. Is they're all typically a little bit nervous. They're worried that then
hmm,
maybe that they're going to have to rehash all the difficulties, right? Or things of that sort, right? But
sure.
a session really should be a very safe and easy. First session should be safe and easy, right? Especially with the right therapist. There are clients do come in fearing they'll be judged or blamed or having to rehash things, right? Or all that sort of stuff. Like they're just really
Yeah.
nervous. But couples counseling really is just about creating a safe, structured place for honest communication and practical growth, right? Well, not taking sides or anything like that. We just sort of unpack their patterns, right? Slow
Mhm.
things down, introduce some new tools, and they don't typically just stop fighting. They really start connecting, right? So it's most clients come in nervous, but with the right therapist, it's super easy.
That makes sense. It's got me thinking about, I remember my wife and I, before kids, we would be able to talk all the time, come home from work and process the day together. That kind of what you call like the safe structured space for communication just kind of happened, right? As part of natural life. But the busier things got, the more hours at work, the more kids we've had, it seems like those safe structured spaces that have just been part of routine have been less and less part of routine. So I can see how it would be so helpful to just have a space to come in and like and just be able to talk without the interruptions of life and be able to hear each other and speak openly.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have someone that you're meeting with who, I always say I'm sort of like trilingual. I speak, you know, male, I speak female, I speak guy talk, I speak lady talk, right? I speak kid talk, right? And so if they're trying to understand their kids, I can help, right? Because I basically can figure out what the kid going on with the child. They're trying to help understand each other, right? It's good if you got a good therapist, they can figure out, okay, here's what he's saying or here's what she's saying,
Yeah,
right? And so in addition to just having that sacred space where they can come, right, talk about stuff, you also have someone who can add a lot to it.
sure. Yeah, I've seen lots of, they're comedy videos about, the marriage interpreter who helps the other
Right.
couple
Yeah.
understand what the other person is saying. But there's truth in every joke. So I think that makes sense.
Yeah. I saw
All right.
one comedian talking about like a text message app that could just change the guy says, like 2 words and then it goes to really extensive sort of thing, right? So all this beautiful language to the wife, and the wife says like all this beautiful language, and then it comes in like, "About tea," right? Or something like that. It translates it in just a little segment.
Oh my God. There's a dystopian AI use case there. That is for
Yes.
sure. That's funny. Okay, so one thing that you said though, in terms of why people come in, actually popped out to me, and I was hoping you could maybe elaborate more on it. There are people that come in just wanting to maybe strengthen their relationship before things escalate, and so I'm sure a decent amount of people listening, things are okay. We're not having knockout, drag out fights every day, but they can, you know, things just kind of build over time, right? So, what are some early habits that couples can be working on now for a healthier relationship in general without having to go all the way to the counseling phase?
Yeah, good question. Yeah. One of the things we say all the time is healthy relationships typically aren't found, they're built, right?
Hmm.
And strong relationships are built on small, consistent habits, right? So I could probably name at least a dozen things that people could do, and maybe, probably give you a few that people shouldn't do, right? Some of the things is try to be friends, right? Turn towards each other, not away. That's
Mm,
really important, right? Strive towards, trying to have like 5 positive interactions to every one negative, right? Occasionally there are negative things, but if you build like that bank account of having a bunch of positive, that
yeah,
really makes a difference, right?
it's a good ratio.
Another thing that yeah, another you were mentioning, like, having that time to talk. So having daily check-ins. Ask what was your biggest challenge today, or what, where's your heart, or even 5, 10 minutes of that sort of stuff, right? Just builds closeness, right? Lots of couples, every night after the kids go to sleep, will spend 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, right? Just connecting. If you don't do that, it really can, that's just a really healthy habit to have, right?
Hmm.
Uh, Another one is speak appreciation like out loud, right? Say the positives, right?
Hmm.
So many times we think they know it, and they probably do, right? But don't just assume they know it. Say it,
Yeah,
right? Thanks for making the coffee, or you were great with the kids today, or, thanks for working so hard, something like that.
yeah. Words of affirmation is a love language for a reason, right? It's not thoughts
Yeah.
of affirmation.
Right, exactly, right.
Yeah,
Nobody ever just right. I thought it, so that's what mattered, right? I mean, it matters that you think it, but it's more
of
important,
course.
or it's equally important that you say it, right?
Yeah.
You gotta say it, right? Another thing is letting go of control, right? We all walk around so much, oftentimes trying to control things. Just appreciate your partner for who they are, not who you want them to be on a particular day, right? So
Mm,
that's an important thing, right? Another thing is when you are having discussions, maybe start with a soft startup, right? And try to use I statements. Start with the easier things and softer things, and like I feel and not you always, right? A lot of you statements not so good. A lot of I statements tend to be good. Like I feel overwhelmed when the dishes pile up versus you never help me, right?
Yeah,
And
that's a totally different conversation.
yeah. Yeah, and using gender stereotypes, but they tend to be a little bit true. Men love to be the knight in shining armor. They hate to be the little boy getting scolded. And
Mhm.
women love to be, cherished, right? And feel special and important and like they matter, right? And they don't like to be just, discounted and not appreciated, right?
Yeah,
They really matter.
never taken for granted.
Yeah. Yeah. So, along with that check-in stuff, also maybe would be having couples time, right? We always talk about date nights and things like that, but rituals matter. Pizza night, walks, vacations, birthday traditions, all sorts of things like that. You know, Definitely have things like business meetings or family meetings, but also have couples time,
Mm,
right? That's also important, right? Business meetings are for business stuff, right? Couples time is for couples time, right? It's for real connecting.
yeah, we're always getting that advice from couples who are a season ahead of us of never stop dating.
Yeah.
And business meetings, like you said, are not dates. So we gotta be really intentional about the conversation that we have.
Yeah, that's a great idea is to have couples at different be friends with couples, right? Or have mentor couples in your
Oh
life
yeah.
that are, way seasoned and some that are just maybe a season or two ahead of you, right? And maybe some that are about in the same boat you're in, right? It's good to have those so you can have, especially the seasoned ones can say, "Hey, this feels like a big deal, but maybe it's not," or these things make sure you do because they really pay dividends, right?
Yeah, we've gotten a lot of wisdom and been talked off a lot of ledges by
Yeah,
friends like that.
absolutely. Another one is focus on doing right, not being right, right? Approach conflict as teammates, right? Not
Oof.
opponents.
That's a
Marriage
good
is
one.
marriage isn't about winning, it's about being on an adventure together, right? It's
Hmm.
not you versus your partner, right? It's both of you versus the problem. Right. So if you could take that approach, that really, winning means solving things together, right? Winning doesn't mean I'm right, you're wrong, right? If that's
Yeah,
your approach, then you started off wrong. You're already wrong.
that's totally
Yeah.
fair. That makes a lot of sense.
Important to practice gratitude, right? Nobody owes you anything, right? So you appreciate everything. To appreciate everything that's done for you, right? Instead of
Hmm.
thinking, well, especially when you've been married for a while, you can start to take things for granted. You can just
Yeah.
start to think, right, I'm owed this. And then you lose the gratitude. And gratitude is such a powerful thing to have. It's such a healing thing. And it's such a good protectant from so many problems.
I think I'm really guilty of coming into marriage thinking I was owed things without knowing it. I think I just have this subconscious expectation. So, yeah, the practice of gratitude and the lifting of those expectations has definitely been a game change for us. That's a really good one.
Yeah, that can be big. Also, learning ways to repair and forgive in relationships, just like sports, right? Like in skateboarding, or like I was mentioning, gymnastics, right? Or even wrestling, but
Hmm.
gymnastics. If you learn how to fall well, you can do almost anything. If
Mm,
you don't know how to fall well, you're going to get hurt all the time, right? But if you learn how to fall well, you bounce right back up, right? And if you could do that, uh, you can have all sorts of things that go wrong, but they don't injure you. You just deal with them, right? You roll with it, right? You
yeah.
bounce back up, right? Sometimes using, low conflict phrases like "I'm not your enemy. I love you. Remember we're on the same team," right?
Hmm.
I love being on it. We're having, some issues right now, but I love that we're on the same team and we can come together and solve this, right? Those are,
Yeah.
powerful bounce back words, right?
So disarm.
Another thing would be like maybe using like the pause, right? Hey, let's pause. Let's pause here and let's come back to it. Especially if you're starting to get overwhelmed or things are starting to get tense, right? Agree to pause, right? Important to ensure that it's important that you make sure that you come back to it though. If you don't come back to it, then the pause, right? Next time you say, can we pause? The person says, no way, right? It's already
Yeah.
hard. There's usually one who's a pursuer and one who's a distancer, right?
Mm,
And the pursuer was like, no way, I want to pause. but they'll be willing to pause as long as the distancer is willing to return, right?
So
But if
important.
if they're getting overwhelmed, right? Pause, return to it, but make sure you return to it. Those are some important ones. I'd also throw out there, develop some shared meaning and goals and, know each other's world. What's going on, right? You'd be surprised. Some couples come in and they just didn't know what their spouse is thinking or going through, or what, if they spent, a day in their spouse's mind, they would be, whoa, I didn't know any of this, right? Just know, not that you need to know every detail about everything somebody thinks about. And I'm not talking about that, but just know their world, know what makes their heart beat, right? What's important to them, what their goals are, and then develop shared goals, shared meaning. Right. So those
Yeah.
are some great things to do. Yeah, I can give you some things.
What should we not do? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So some things to not do are kind of like the opposite of those things, like scorekeeping. Don't do scorekeeping, right? Avoid unspoken expectations. You were talking about coming into marriage with a lot of
Mm-hmm.
unspoken expectations, right? And thinking you were owed things and that sort of stuff, and not even realizing it. But try to realize, okay, say what you need, right? That's important. Avoid using tech. This is real common today. Avoid using tech to escape. People escape into TV, into their phone, super big. Two people laying on their bed, both on their phone, not connecting at all. Right. I'm not saying that can't be a good thing, right? In some ways, but if you spend enough time connecting, then you can enjoy the little adventures into watching something or, looking at this
Yeah.
cool video or learning something on your phone. Right?
Because there's always that little twinge of guilt, right? When you're sitting with your spouse, but you're not with your spouse. And so that's a much more enjoyable thing when you've already done the connection and you can actually
Right. Right.
almost
Then you don't
escape
feel
together.
guilty. Right.
Yeah.
It's just natural that, hey, if we really feel connected, then we can enjoy these other things. But if we haven't and we're escaping doing that, that's where it becomes problematic. Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And one other one is, this is kind of a big one. Avoid criticism that's dressed up as help. Right. A lot of times we will like, oh, I'm just helping. Right. So affirm first and then
Hmm.
address the issues gently. Right. Remember, you're on the same team. You love each other. You care about each other. You care about how this person receives. And the best way you work together is by working together.
Yeah, I've heard this ad nauseum, and it feels so basic, but it almost never fails. The feedback sandwich, right? Where you share
Yes.
something positive, put the criticism or the constructive criticism in the middle, and then finish with an encouragement. And if I just do the middle, it is never as effective as the full
Right.
sandwich. It's worth the extra effort.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Say somebody has fallen into some of these habits, right? Or there are just some things that are happening that keep dragging the same stuff back up. Maybe resentment is starting to build, or there's a couple that's just having the same fight over and over again. It feels like every time we talk, we end up in a fight. How would you help a couple who maybe is dealing with some issues of resentment or recurring conflicts?
Sure. Sure. Good question. I would say resentment, it's important to pay attention to because it's sort of like, and this is kind of a gross way to put it, but it's sort of like mold, like black mold or something like that.
Mm,
It's silent, right? It grows quietly, but then it begins to overwhelm and it can become poisonous, right? Toxic, right? Pretty quickly, right? If you don't take care of it. So you want to be really careful with resentment. If you're starting to feel resentment, right? Especially if it's becoming contempt or bitterness, right? You really want to, when you get to those levels, you really need to, okay, we need to do something, right? Because that can become so poisonous. Good counseling turns things like resentment and such and conflict into conversations, right? And then conversations into connection, right? So if you get some assistance and you're like, okay, I'm starting to feel this, right? Feelings aren't your enemy, right? Feelings are like kids. Pay close attention to them, nurture them, care for them. Just don't let them run the show, right? You
mm,
let kids run the show, right? How long until your household is, not doing so well? Or you let them drive the bus, right? Your bus is going to end up in the ditch,
yeah.
right? So, so pay attention that the resentment is building and then do something about it, right? So, okay,
Hmm.
we know that there's something wrong. One thing to do, maybe Step one might be, name the pattern, right? Name the issue, right? And therapy will do that, right? We sort of map out their conflict style, their triggers, their feelings, their reactions so that they can start seeing things clearly and then change the steps, right? Step two maybe is teach repair rituals, right? Or the, my puppy dog is jumping up here with me. All right. Step two is teach repair rituals, right? Most couples aren't fighting about what they think they're fighting about, right? So
Interesting.
if you know, yeah. So if you know that what you're fighting about really isn't probably the main issue, right? And you know how to repair it, right? You can do all sorts of things.
It feels like it comes up almost in every conversation we have, but it's like that the presenting issue is never the real issue.
Yes.
It's always a symptom of what's underneath. And so, yeah, being able to find what that underneath is feels like the core of good counseling.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
Okay. All right. So last question. Um, I've been thinking about this one a lot as we prepared for this because I am, perplexed on what you would do. I'm very interested to hear what you say. What if only one member of the couple is really engaged or wants the counseling? What happens if the other person is there, maybe not of their own free will?
Yeah. So good question. It's more common than you might think. The truth is one person can often change things, right? You
Hmm.
you might think one person can't make a difference, but one person can. Relationships are systems, right? When one person changes how they show up, the whole dynamic has to change. Are you thinking one of those things what they call mobiles or whatever, that would
Oh yeah,
hang? Or,
like the mobiles.
yeah, mobiles.
Yeah.
You shake one piece, right? The whole thing starts to shake, right? And that could be good, right? Like I'm shaking because I'm changing this thing, I'm changing the whole thing. It can also happen for bad, right? If one
Yeah.
person starts to change and do terrible things, right? That can also, but it's not uncommon at all for people to come in. It's super common. Like one wife did recently where she came in alone for a little while, but she set some boundaries, started regulating herself better, communicated more clearly. Her husband noticed the difference, and then eventually he joined her, right? It's
Wow.
not uncommon for people to eventually they see what's working. Say, oh, that is making a difference, right?
Yeah.
People want their relationships to go well, right? They don't want them to go poorly. And sometimes you have people who just won't do anything, but usually you have people who want good. They want good in their life. Sometimes we teach people like make an invitation, not an ultimatum. I'd love you
Hmm.
to do this counseling thing together with me, but I'll keep growing even if you're not ready to. Right?
Okay.
Using out statements, right, and boundaries. I feel overwhelmed and want to feel like a team. Can we do this together? Right? It's an
Yeah.
invitation, not an ultimatum.
That's very gracious.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's something we say. Sometimes we say compassionate ownership, focus on what you can control, right? Not what your partner won't do. Right. We talk a lot about control what you can, let go of what you can't, focus on the good. Right. And
Yeah.
there are things that you can control. You can control these things. You can go get help. And then oftentimes if you do, right, it can really make a difference. Right. Conflict and resentment don't mean that your relationship is broken. It just means you need new tools. And if one person learns some new tools, it can make a big world's difference. Oftentimes, if that person's learning new tools, the other person will either learn vicariously or they'll come join you. Like, hey, I want to see what this is about.
Yeah, that's happened to me. 100%. It's been fantastic. So big shout out to my wife there. She's the best.
Awesome.
Great. Well, I think that's a fantastic place to wrap up today. So thank you, Dr. Ernie, for your time and all of your insight. This has been an amazing conversation.
Oh, thank you, Ryan. It's good talking to you.
Yeah, you as well. All right. So thanks for joining us on Real Life Counseling, a podcast by the Counseling Corner. If today's conversation helped you or got you thinking, we'd love it if you would share this episode, leave us a review. For more information or to connect with Dr. Ernie or anybody on his counseling team, please visit counselingcorner.net. Or for more great content from Dr. Ernie and the team, you can visit us on Facebook or Instagram. Until next time, take care of yourself and the people you love. Thanks, Dr. Ernie. Have a good rest of your week.
You too, Ryan.